Welcome back to the Gems of Public Safety podcast. I am your host, Jason Lacayo, and I am super excited for this episode. It's been quite the journey to try to get this to happen, because as you guys know, public safety in the city of White Plains is fire and police, and I know the police side. I know a few firefighters, so we had to call in the big guns, and we had to pull out some favors. So I want to start with introducing the man to the right of me, and for conversation's sake, I don't want to butcher this man's name, so I'm going to have him introduce himself and just tell us a little bit about like your backstory, where you grew up and what made you want to become a firefighter.
Okay, so my name is Frank Piccininni. I was born and raised in White Plains, lived here my whole life.
Through and through.
Yep.
I like it.
I got on at 23 years old. In 2003, I was hired for the White Plains Fire Department. I am in my 23rd year as of right now, and I will be retiring next month.
God bless. That's what it's all about right there.
I moved out of White Plains in 2014, when after I got married, I bought my first house in Valhalla. But until then, I've born all through the whole school system, born and raised White Plains. Actually, never had anyone in the family tell me about the fire department. My mother's boyfriend was a correction officer. Okay. And I was working in a pizzeria at the time, like 18 years old. And he said, "You ever think about, taking any of these public service tests, police, fire?" I said, "No, not really, I said at 18, I was making money, thinking, I'm like, yeah, I don't need that, right? And he's like, yeah, what happens if you get hurt? Pensions kind of schooled me on that. So I took police and fire. Took the state trooper test, did real good, got an interview. The gentleman asked me if I was signed up for any other test. I said I was taking the fire department test next, and the officer said, if you have the opportunity, take the fire department test.
So a cop told you. That's usually the story. Cops would tell you
that was what he told me.
To go the FD route.
He said, he goes, we're hated, you guys are loved. And I said, oh,
he's not lying.
So I took that. White Plains back in 2001. This is when they were doing the hiring every 2 years, and I didn't really go in there knowing a lot, didn't really practice, just went, took it, didn't do great compared to what guys are doing now and studying, practicing for the test. And I was fortunate enough to get hired, and it was the best choice ever I made. Didn't know anything about it, didn't really could never say I really wanted to be a fireman when I was younger, but I'm glad it took me in that direction.
I love to hear that,
definitely the right
man.
Choice.
Usually when you hear guys talk about it, they like either grew up wanting to do it, and so for someone who didn't want to do it, you've done great in your career. So that's a testament to like who you are. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to spin it over to the man on the left of me. Tell the people who you are. Give us a quick bio, and what made you want to become a firefighter. Sorry, you don't want to be a police officer. I'm on the other side, man. You don't want to be a police officer. Trust me, not in this day and age. But tell us a little bit about it, and like, is there anything during your career that confirmed that you made like the right choice?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Patsy Defonce. I've been with the White Plains Fire Department now 8 years. I was very fortunate. I grew up in Harrison, so my family's from downtown Harrison and West Harrison. Okay. So growing up, White Plains was essentially our like Manhattan. My family, we didn't go to the city. It was always just we'd go outside my grandmother's house, see the lights in White Plains, and like that was the spot. That was a cool place to be. That was kind of like my goal in life. I was like, wow, White Plains, that's cool. I think I want to work there, and I always wanted to be a fireman. So for me, that was essentially what drove me from a young kid. I just saw it, liked it, thought it was cool. Yeah. Thought White Plains was cool. I was like, it's a good spot to be. Always wanted to be a fireman, so essentially that was it. I set my sights on it. And I was fortunate. I moved here. I moved to Bryan Gardens, so a lot of people call that Station 8. We've had multiple guys through the years living there.
We have a bunch of guys go through there as well.
Yeah, so I'm sure you guys are familiar with it.
Yeah,
exactly. You want to be a public servant in White Plains, you got to move to Bryan Gardens. Absolutely. So that's your starting point. For me, so far in my career, honestly, every single day that I go in, it reassures that I made the right decision. Every day we get to ride out of the firehouse. We're going out there on, sadly, people's worst days, and we're trying to make it better, right? Every time we roll up somewhere, we're always looking to help people. We're never looking to jam people up. And honestly, the residents, you see it every time we go somewhere. They're always grateful to see us. Mm-hmm. So every time we do that, honestly, that just reassures made the right decision in life.
Love to hear it, man. I mean, you kind of summed it up all right there, man. A lot of guys that grow up wanting to become firefighters, it's something that I think kids dream of. I know when I was a kid, I was either like, it was going to be some form of like civil service.
Exactly.
I was always around people who wore uniforms. I had an uncle who was a firefighter. It never dawned on me till way later in my career to even go that route. But, I love to hear guys growing up wanting to do this job, man. So salute to you for doing what you're doing and accomplishing those goals, man. So I got a young man all the way to the left of me, large human, pretty tall guy. Tell us who you are and just kind of piggyback on, why did you want to become a police officer, and do you get like reassurance that you made the right decision?
All right. Yeah, so my name is Ian Jackson. Born and raised in Portchester, then in White Plains.
All right.
I've been on the White Plains Fire Department now in my 10th year, as of March 10th. Enjoying every bit of it. As we always say, best job in the world. My upbringing was, I always thought I was going to be a sports guy. Yeah, I think a lot of us always thought that. I thought I was going to be either the tallest person in the world to play basketball, or I was going to be the world's fastest man, Usain Bolt. So
he was quick. Really.
To me, you're definitely the tallest man.
He was a large, big man. He's still quick.
Yeah. So my upbringing is a big sports background, whether it's soccer or track and field and everything. Went to SUNY Cobleskill, had about a year and a half there. Went back to WCC. Said, all right, I got to start working a little bit more. Trying to find myself. I think any young kid in college is trying to find themselves, whether it's school is for them or not. Still wanted to play sports. I did backgrounds in everything from working in alarm companies, our Curie Alarms. I did also New York Sports Club.
Okay.
I did refereeing for volleyball, also for soccer. I worked in the community for the rec department for actually special needs.
Awesome.
For soccer. So I was heavily into that. Actually did one-on-one work with a kid in Stanford for a family that, they needed help with a child there and everything.
Okay.
Brought me back into White Plains. I ended up having people talk to me and say, hey, why don't you take the fire department test? There's actually a guy that he's a chief now in actually Grand Central Station, said, hey, I've been trying to get on the job for a little bit. I think you should try to take the test as well. I've turned him down maybe a couple times too many.
Yeah.
I think some people, were a little silly when we make those little decisions and everything, but end up taking the test, placed 7th on the test, which I thought was great. Everybody told me, oh, you should get the job in about, a year and a half or two. That would be awesome. 4 years later.
At number 7. Wow.
I was sweating bullets. I had my first child, and I had another child on the way, and I remember even telling my son that, hey, I'm going to probably have to take this test again, go up against younger, maybe even bigger guys. And God bless me to, they gave me a call, said, hey, would you like to become a White Plains firefighter? And I never looked back. So
love to hear it, man.
Awesome.
Sometimes it takes us a little bit to figure out, like, what the journey is going to be.
Absolutely.
Right? You saying that guy kind of, tried to put you in position, and you were just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But eventually, I think you were destined to do this, and it found its way to you, man. So thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. So the second question, and I think a lot of people will want to hear this, right? People see the hero moments, but they don't always see the preparation. So what does a typical day in the firehouse actually look like when you're not responding to calls? Because I think people always wonder. We drive by and we see you guys.
Yeah.
We don't know what actually goes on in the firehouse.
Yeah, well,
so we'll start with you with that.
It always starts with a cup of coffee, talking with some of the guys. We have, exactly. Get the day started and talk about the days off that we had and how's the family doing and everything. Just try to catch up as quickly as possible, and then it's straight to work. What I think a lot of people don't realize is that we have to do a lot of first aid checks. First aid checks incorporate everything from checking our gear, making sure everything is on us and looking right, to protect our bodies. Mm-hmm. Then we're also checking our equipment, make sure it's working properly. And then we also have to check the apparatus or the rigs that we ride every morning.
Okay.
Make sure they're flowing water, make sure that the ladders can go up, and just making sure everything is working at that point in time. This is going to be the successful ways of performing at a fire scene or an accident scene, making sure our equipment is up to snuff at that point.
I like that. I mean, that gives some people some insight because, like I said, we drive by and we don't know what's actually going on. So I think a lot of people would want to know, especially like there's going to be a lot of people that listen to this that want to be in fire service. And so this is kind of giving them a little bit of insight.
Also, kind of depending on where you are, what your duty of the rig that day. If you're the driver, if you're a driver, your check is going over the apparatus, right? And the guy in the back seat, depending on the engine of the truck, he's checking the equipment that he's carrying, and then the officer's checking his equipment.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty much like like you're going into a fight. And you're doing all your preparation, kind of like reading film on the guy who's obviously, we don't know what the fire is, right? The fighter, the challenger is the fire that day, whatever comes in, and you got to make sure all the equipment that we potentially going to have to use is working properly, and you know where it is.
Gotcha.
Right. So like if the driver goes over the apparatus, checking that, the backseat guy carries the equipment, the officer's carrying in his equipment, and then hey, if we get something like this, we might need this equipment, and depending on the kind of call, when it gets called and dispatched from dispatch, is what we're going to take into the building. Right? So different kind of building, like a type 1 building, like a project building, is going to be totally different than if we go to a home, right? Because a home is all stick and brick, wood. That fire is going to burn a lot different than in an apartment building or a type 1 where it's poured concrete, right? There we're really more concerned about the contents of the room, where in a house fire, the structure and the actual elements of the building can be burning, where we can then have a collapse and die, right? I'm not saying that can't happen in a type 1, but I'm not worried about a collapse in the type 1 building, like a project building.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about the people inside the unit.
Like a residential.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Right? So all that is like so much, there's so many different intricate parts throughout the day that we're discussing that your mind is going on.
So it's almost like an accountability checklist, right?
100%.
You got to figure out, like,
every
all right,
day.
Make sure everything is operating, and if in fact there is something that goes left, we have a contingency plan to make sure that all the tools and things that we need are on the truck, correct?
Correct.
Engine, truck, rescue, and then depending on certain houses throughout the city, there's different apparatus accordingly separated for that reason. So like, where I work, Ian works, we're in Mamaroneck Avenue and Maple, and that's like pretty centrally located.
Gotcha.
And we go on, you go on the majority of the runs because you're in the middle of the city. Right?
Gotcha.
And Patsy works off of Lake Street. I used to work there before I got promoted, and that house is a very busy house. Not as busy as headquarters because it's not centrally located, but they go to a significant amount, and there are calls sometimes where up in the Woodcrest area or Hilldale, where you can be up there, and you could be out there by yourself for 2-3 minutes, which feels like 20 minutes, right? So, we cover a lot of area, and you're expected to do a lot of work, and sometimes it's a lot of work for the guys on the apparatus, so.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about the Lake Street house. Like, what's that like?
Yeah, so the Lake Street house is actually, that's our gem in the firehouse. We try not to tell too many people, but it's going to be out there after this podcast. So it's out there now. So it's actually a single engine company.
Okay.
So any given day you have a minimum of 3 guys. Technically, sometimes we can get up to 4, but generally speaking, it's always going to be a 3-man engine company out there.
Okay.
So that has a very diverse response area. So kind of like Lieutenant Piccininni was speaking about, we have type 1 buildings, type 2, 3, 4, 5. We have everything under the sun over there. So we consider it the east side of White Plains, the east side engine company.
You know what's wild? I never even knew there was the east side of White Plains. I'm learning something new.
Yeah. So
I'm taking little tidbits. All right, continue. I'm sorry.
Exactly. So it's a nice house. It actually, if you were to like walk down the street in Manhattan, it kind of reminds you of like an old school, traditional
like an old
firehouse.
Looking firehouse.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you imagine a firehouse, that's what you would imagine.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, it's a great firehouse. We're very fortunate because across the board with all the groups, it's normally the same members. So sometimes like junior guys, they'll have to jump around, ride different apparatus on a tour basis.
Okay.
But at that house, there's a lot of the same members, so the camaraderie is there across all the board for all the groups. So it's a really good house.
So let me ask this, right? Because a lot of people were wondering this. What kind of shifts are they working as a firefighter?
So we do 24 hours on, 72 off.
You hear that, people? 24 hours on, 72 off. Take the test. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great schedule to me.
No, the schedule is fantastic. I mean, the truth is it allows us to have so much flexibility in our personal life. So on top of the fact that, yes, technically you're only really working 2 days a week, but you are working 48 hours a week if you were to just marry it up in a sense of hours. So like I said, I mean, for your personal life, now you have a 3-day swing, whether it's to recover, whether it's to spend time with your family, or whether it's to honestly better yourself and go take training classes or read, whatever you like to do on the side. It gives you a lot of flexibility.
I mean, this career sounds pretty tantalizing, if you will.
Yeah. But what you got to remember is that just as good as the good is, that 24-hour shift when you're deemed to work on December 25th and you have 3 kids, you're gone from your family for 24 hours.
We're stuck on
So,
a 4-year swing of
you got to take the good with the bad,
Yeah,
right? So when you wake up and then, you got to go to work and the kids want to open presents, you're going to work. And you took this job, so this is a responsibility. You don't just say, well, I got kids, so I don't want to go to work. Like, no, but people are counting on you. Right,
Yeah.
so like sometimes
Always a
people say, "Oh,
sacrifice.
you're firemen, you guys got a great schedule." Yeah, but like you get to spend time with your family on Christmas. Like you don't get to spend time with your immediate family, but these guys are your other family, right? So like we go into the work. Like the first thing when you go into work, a big deal is what's for dinner. Right, we sit down and we sit down and we eat dinner together. Right, so that you want to have that family bond. Right, you go into work, everything's fun, but there's a moment where it might not be that great, and we don't want to go to a fire and come back and not have everybody there.
Yeah, man.
Right, so like you got to have that bond with people. So you got to build on that. But like, so, we'll go food shopping sometimes and people are like, oh, you guys eat great. Like, well, we pay for our dinner. The taxpayers of City of White Plains pay our salary, which we're grateful for. But when we go out and buy dinner, that's us.
Okay, see?
Big
Right?
People wanted to know
Yeah,
that.
that's a
people
big
wanted to know
misconception.
So, like, if we wanna go
100%.
out-
Let me tell you, that
100%.
was one of the questions that came in. Like,
Yeah.
these guys, they go to ShopRite.
Yeah,
and
eating
they
steak.
go
You guys
shop
eating
for something.
steak?
Oh, we
Yeah.
get asked that all the
Yeah.
time, every time.
And so I had a couple when I was young. When I came on, I originally went to school for culinary.
Okay.
So guys found out, and I
you're the chef.
I was liked very quickly because I cook. I still cook to this
I gotta
day.
ask this question. Right? Do they designate a guy that is like the cook, or does it rotate?
Yeah, well, it depends on if you're good or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Kind of just falls
you're
into
up to
place, I
snuff.
feel like.
Yeah, if you're a good cook, there's
you're the
different
cook.
houses.
I'm a good prep.
Different houses within the firehouse.
prep.
We
that
got
guys
sous
could
chefs.
cook.
So yeah, okay.
We got
so
sous
so
chefs,
everybody's given a role, right?
Yeah.
You got levels. You got levels
Oh
to it,
man,
right?
listen.
Some of us are just pot cleaners. It is
Correct.
what
Yeah,
it is,
that's
you
what
know?
it
Listen, there's nothing wrong with
Everyone-
that.
Like cleaners as well.
dishwashers.
Just
Yeah,
clean up
listen.
everything in
I like
sight.
the collective that you guys designate guys to do certain things. I
Yeah.
guess the most talented ones are the ones that are on the grill, chefing and doing whatnot.
Correct.
But you guys mentioned something that really resonates with me, and it's family.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like in the first responder space, the guys that you work with, the guys that sit to the left and the right of you, the guys that are in your house, they're your brothers, right? Because you guys go into fires.
100%.
And you got to make sure that everybody makes it back out. I'll never forget, I went to a call. It was somewhere on 13 Post. It was somewhere on Battle Hill.
Okay.
And this house was engulfed, right? And there was a guy that was running around on the roof. He looked like Peter Parker. I'll never forget this. Like he's running around on the roof. And I happened to be working with Ryan Wiley, who's a volunteer fireman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was
on
that a
the-
night? Was that a night
It was
fire?
a, it was a night
Was that the
fire.
Concord fire?
Concord,
The
maybe?
Concord fire?
Yeah, when the whole
Yes.
back of the house blew up. Let me tell you
Yes.
something right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I salute you guys for what you do,
Yeah.
right? Because we had got there a little early, and I'm watching this thing, and in a matter of 3 or 4 minutes, this house was fully engulfed.
Engulfed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it got bad quick. I think that night somebody, fell through the floor or
Might
something.
be looking at him.
See him?
Oh,
see
that's
him?
Looking at him.
the second Concord fire.
Yeah, I didn't fall through the
Yes.
floor. The guys on the top floor were going to make that. That was where the woman was in the third floor. She jumped out the window. She got burned.
Yes, yes.
The hose line, attack line, was going from the second floor to the third floor. The hose line got caught at the doorway. I went down. I was a fireman at the time. I pulled the hose line, was walking up to give them more hose to advance.
Yeah.
When they got to the stairs right above me, they stepped on it, and the whole bottom of the staircase collapsed on me.
Oh my God.
And then I ended up getting burned. I ended up going to the burn center in the ambulance with that woman. Because
I knew they
some
said
of the
they
stuff
said
fell down.
a firefighter got hurt there.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was
Yeah,
you.
that was me.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This job is not for the weak-hearted, man. Like I said, I'm a cop for a reason. I don't like fire,
Yeah, it's
and it's not to be played with, and it could go really bad really quick. And that kind of leads me to like my third question, right? It's firefighters see, people on their worst days of their lives, right? And how's the job, shape the way you view family, life, and community?
so. I mean, unfortunately, right? We train and we do all this. So when we go out, like we can do our best, right? And unfortunately, on not saying that we want and looking for people to have problems, but the only way you could really solidify what you do is when you actually have the time to do it, right? So like you want to train, and sometimes you don't wish anything bad upon people, but you also do want to have the moment where you can say like, well, I've learned these skills, I've honed these skills, I want to do it, right? Like
absolutely.
You know, and you want to do it good, and the only way you could do it good is by getting the chance to do it,
Getting
right?
the reps,
But when you do it, like you're there, like you said, you're coming in there, and I try to treat. Now that I have children, I have a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I try to treat everybody like if it was my kid or my family, right? Because ultimately you want to, like I wish if something happened to my family and I wasn't there, I'd want them to do that for me. Like I want the same treatment for my kid that I would give to somebody else, right? So like, and sometimes like when I first got promoted, there was a new guy who we were with, and it was me and another guy who had like 17 years, and a woman on Lake Street got hit by a car and run over. She died.
Oh, wow.
And the guy driving didn't see her, hit her, dragged her, ran her over, her teeth, everything. And we were the first ones there. And this guy, it was the first person he saw die. He probably had a year on, and he was emotionally, like you could see on his face. So I was trying to just like tell a couple jokes, kind of get him outside that to just clear his mind.
Yeah,
you know.
a little bit
And
of
in today,
television there.
correct.
Yeah.
And then also like you kind of like get like you don't know what you're seeing until you see it. And in today's world, especially with social media and the cell phone, right? People driving by and they're looking at you. Now they don't know what we're dealing with when we leave the scene and what you see. Like there's things I saw when I was younger that I hope I never see ever again.
Yeah.
But at that age, at 23, not having a family and children, it doesn't hit you like when you have
I'm happy you said
a
that.
child, right? Like if I saw something today that I saw when I was 23 with a child injury, it's going to affect me a lot different than it did then. Now there's when you do see things, something that happened 17 years ago, something that reminds you of that, like all that rushes back, right? So you try to like, and a big part of our job, at least for me too, is ball breaking, right? Like, because guys, when I first came on, I was 23. Most of the guys on the job at the time were like 45 and older because
older guys,
this job, most of the time, guys took because of the benefits, the pension, and then they had a side job, and it was security, right? So these guys had 40, 50 years of age, 30 years on the job, 35, 40 years. And most of these guys I view like my father.
Yeah.
Because my father said, you got 2 ears and one mouth. Keep your mouth shut and listen to what someone tells you to do.
Amen.
Right? So when I went to work, I just kept my mouth shut. And then as I became more of a senior guy and had time, you go into work and you break the guy's chops because you like them.
Yeah.
Right? You're not breaking them to really hurt their feelings. You go at them in a certain
Part of the
way.
culture.
Correct.
Yeah.
But, you know, like in today's world and outside world and, you know, like the office, probably wouldn't get away with some of the things that we say, but you're doing it in fun, right? And because at the end of the day, we put the suit on and we're going to work. It's time to go to work.
Yeah, it's like a fraternity, I say, right?
Exactly.
And,
You haze them to get them there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's kind of like initiation.
Yeah.
You're initiating,
It's like
right?
you got to know that you got thick skin because you're going to deal with some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to see some things, so we got to make sure that you're built for it.
Yeah, 100%.
Could you piggyback on that? Like, things have changed since you've been a firefighter, right? Like, are you a father?
No, I am not.
But you're married, correct?
I am married, yep.
Yeah, right. So, like, you didn't start the job. Did you start the job married?
No, I got married actually 2 years ago.
Okay, so congratulations
Yeah,
on
thank
that.
you, thank you.
Like, how has your, viewpoint changed since being a married man on this job? Do you think differently now when you rush into a fire or respond to a call?
Yeah, I mean, I do and I don't, right? Because I've been fortunate, right? We have good senior men, like I said, for like Lieutenant Piccininni that kind of help guide us, right, with things that they've seen in their career, and they kind of help bridge that gap, and they teach us, how to overcome obstacles. They teach us how to understand what we just saw, right? One of the best things that we have is the fact that if we do go to something and it's horrific, right, I'm not just going home sitting with my thoughts, right? I'm going back to the firehouse. I'm sitting there with these guys. We're talking it out, and it kind of gives you a sense of reassurance. It makes you feel comfortable in an uncomfortable situation.
I love that. So you guys like kind of break down what happened.
Yeah.
And kind of,
And
unpack it. if you will.
Absolutely. And honestly, that's one of the best things about what, they'll say the Brotherhood with the fire department is you're really not alone, ever. So.
I love that answer, man. And I know you're a father.
Yes.
Right?
Father of three.
Father of three.
Yeah.
Has it changed? You know, you came on as a father, right?
Yeah.
Has anything changed or shifted in you? Because I know, like, for me, you know, I think the way I view my life now is a lot different.
Yeah.
I think we all do this.
100%.
Part of it because we're like a little bit of an adrenaline junkie.
Thrill seeker for me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right. Like you hear that, you know, that sound goes off. You guys are running to a call, and it's like, all right, I'm ready to go. And it's like, yeah, you know, I hate to say it, but you get a little bit of a high from it. You know, like
100%.
And you kind of chase that when you go to work. When that tone goes off, you guys are like, I'm ready to kick it into gear. Was there any kind of like shift, you know, or has it kind of remained the same?
So I think, you know, we always have these values that we grow up with, you know, whether it's your parents that teach them or you just learn them as you go along. Life is not, you know, guaranteed, you know, tomorrow and everything.
You said that because that's God's honest truth. Yep.
Yeah, be appreciative of the things that you have now, your family, your loved ones, and maybe the home you get to go to. Not, you know, a lot of people don't have a lot of those things and everything. And I could harp back on a situation just, you know, being a father and kids involved and everything. A scene back in 2020 in January. Unfortunately, there was a wrong way driver who smacked into.
Is that the 287?
287.
I was there, bro.
Correct. Yeah.
One of the
And-
worst calls of my life, man.
Yeah. And
Tough, yeah.
I mean, there's a father that won't see his wife, a son that won't see his dad anymore, and a mother that won't see their son.
Yeah.
You know, not to talk too much into it, but, you know,
It's the
coming
reality
back-
of life, though. It's the reality
Yeah.
of the job. Yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
happy you actually touched on it.
So get into that scene, very hectic. You know, you're very much prepared to do what you have to do and help whoever is at that scene and everything. But after everything is said and done, we get everybody else out, bring whoever needs to go to the hospital. Harp back on it. You know, thankfully we actually had time to think about it and talk about it with whether it was a lieutenant or firefighter to say, hey, you guys are right and everything. I was like, dang, it's not exactly what it was cracked up to be. I said I was a thrill seeker. This wasn't exactly a thrill for me at all.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So
It's the
maybe
flip side of it.
Yeah, it was the little flip side, and you know, it was one of those times in my career I said, you know, I firefighter. I always thought it was about fire, and you know, you save the person and this and that and third, but you save the person. There's sometimes that somebody won't be saved.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with you whatsoever. So don't harp on it too much. That's what guys have told me in my career. Say, hey, you know, this scene. You know, you deal with it right now. We'll talk about it, but on to the next one. Try not to bring it into the next one for yourself. And you know, sometimes it's good to have those outlets, whether it's going to be Patsy or Lieutenant Piccininni and everything to talk about. You know, and that brotherhood that we have. You know, we just discuss about, hey, you know, this one was a little bit uncomfortable. You know, not all of them are going to be the best.
I'm happy you touched on that because I feel like I don't think people understand the brotherhood that you guys have. You guys, I think that's one thing that's resonated throughout this whole conversation is that brotherhood, right? I remember that call. That's probably one of the roughest calls of my career.
Same.
And part of it was, you know, we take an oath, right, to like help people, right? And part of that is the man that caused that accident, we had to cut out of a car.
Yes.
Right? So regardless of what that man just did, we have a duty.
Yeah.
And we had to cut this guy out of the car.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, damn, bro, this guy just caused so much pain and grief. But yet we still have to show up and cut this man out of this car and, you know,
Help him.
him.
Yeah, at the time, you're not really, your job is just to do what you could do, right? The problem is after you leave that scene and the adrenaline stops is
That's
when
when it
all
hits.
the emotions come,
Yep.
right? And then it's how you, and again, everybody has their own mechanism of how they deal with it. Some guys want to talk about it, some guys don't want to talk about it. I just try to make light of it, break chops, joke around with guys
what we
to
do.
kind of just get your mind off
what
of
we
it,
do.
right? Like that's
Eases
just,
it.
everybody has their mechanism of how they deal with it.
That's how
right?
we compartmentalize.
Correct,
That's
exactly.
Laugh,
And you
cry,
hope
whatever
that
you
you
gotta
just
do.
try to put that away, and then, but sometimes the years allow you, there could be a call that's very similar, and then all that you had comes back on top of what you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
So when people don't we're not in the military where we're shooting in guns, this and that, but you still see things that probably you shouldn't see or deal with sometimes.
The average person doesn't see it.
But but you took that oath and you're going to do it, right? So regardless of what it is, and sometimes, you know, it's really not good. You know, you don't want to see it. And some guys deal with certain things better than others, right? Like I got some guys that say, hey, smells bother me. Blood doesn't bother me. Okay, great. So if we go on a certain call and I know that there's maybe an elderly person that went to the bathroom in their pants, I'm going to give that guy kind of like the space and get somebody else in there, vice versa, right? And what you're going through that in your life at that moment can trigger something else too,
Absolutely.
right? So
I
you
know
have
it
a
all
young
too well.
child, or that child's got, God forbid, disease or sick, and now you see that could instantly trigger something for you,
Yeah,
right?
man.
So it's a lot. We pull on the scene to people's worst incidents, and we're making a lot of decisions in a very small amount of time. And not every decision that we're going to make is going to be the right one, but we're trying to make the right decisions.
Absolutely.
But
We're human.
in a world where you could put on TV and pause it and say,
We don't have that
why'd this
luxury."
guy do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Why'd this cop shoot
Monday
this
morning
person?
quarterback.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Our life
All the
doesn't
time.
stop
Yeah.
in a second when we're going and say, hold on, can you pause? All right, let's see which person can we save in the room. Right? It doesn't go. We have to use our training, our knowledge, and what we see, and based off that, we're going to try to make the best determination. Obviously, our goal is to try to save as much life as possible.
yeah.
And sometimes that's not always the case, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm loving this conversation right now because this hits home for me, man. And I'm, working in the same city with you guys. We responded to the same calls, and now I'm sitting down at a table with you guys, and I'm like, damn, I was there for this one. I was
Yeah.
there for that one. And
Yeah.
wow, and our struggle is the same.
Yeah.
I don't think cops really think about that when they're thinking about firefighters. We bust chops all the time. You guys got the pillow.
Yeah,
And, you guys get to eat and work out and all that stuff. But essentially, man, we do the same job. It might look a little bit different from the outside, but we still deal with the same stressors.
100%.
And so, you guys mentioned like the strong brotherhood in the firehouse, right? What does that bond mean to you guys, and how does it help you get through like those tough calls that we just talked about?
Yeah. So you build friendships with guys. You talk to guys. You go out. Now, when I first came on in 03, we had a different work schedule. There was 10s and 14s. So
Okay.
we used to work 3 days on, then you were off for 2.5, then you worked 3 nights, and then you were off for 4.
Okay.
Right. So back then it was a little more like after you finished your last day in, which was 8 to 6. Guys would usually go to the bar, hang out, shoot it, have a couple of drinks,
Yeah.
relax, and then if we had a job, we got lucky enough to get a job on the last day in before we left. Then we all went. And you kind of like you were all amped up.
Yeah.
Right. You got your adrenaline. You go out. You're talking about what you did. And the guys that didn't live around here, you got some time to spend with them. Now, because of the new schedule, which is great, some of the guys that don't live around here, you don't really get that bonding off the job,
okay.
right? So that's kind of that's kind of the downside.
got a little bit of that here, yeah.
Because guys live, some guys can't afford to live around here, so they live up the line. So, but you gotta hang out, talk, build relationships with guys. Once you start working with guys, I've been there for a long time, so I know a lot of guys. And you show up to union events, you get to see guys, and then you start to build friendships. And then for me, it's just like, again, the ball breaking is key because it kind of like just keeps everybody sharp. And also like, hey, you want to tease guys to a point where they feel like, and you include them in the conversation, right? And usually the guys that are a little more standoffish or don't want to include in that, like you still try to, but like the other guys, you try to keep them in there and show them like, hey man, this is all love, right? Like it's like when a boy used to yell or throw something at a girl in school, like he likes it,
very similar,
right?
yeah.
It's the same thing. Like when a senior guy told me like, hey man, don't take it personal. Like we love you, but we just like you're the new guy. We gotta break your chops.
we gotta do it a little bit.
And
It's a rite of passage,
Correct.
they
If
say.
in today's world, if they did to me today what they did to me in 2003, I wouldn't even be. I'd be collecting $1 million. I would have a lawsuit over and over if I was
I
that
know.
guy.
We've
right?
been on long enough to see the shift, the change.
Correct.
Things were a lot different back then. So,
100%.
Could you guys like piggyback on that, or?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, right, the Brotherhood, like, what other job can I say to Ian tomorrow morning? Be like, when we're getting off shift, say, hey, working on my bathroom. You think you can come tile with me?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Oh,
no,
that's
as long as you're buying pizza, yeah, I'm there. And you got 10 guys lined up to come help you. Like that's the Brotherhood in a nutshell. Nobody's looking for anything out of you. They just want to be around each other. They just like helping each other. Like that's what it matters to me.
That's a great addition to that. To just to piggyback off what Frank was talking about.
Yeah.
Like you don't realize that part of it, right? And I think a lot of people that are listening to this are starting to get a little bit more insight as to what it is that you guys really have. This brotherhood is real.
Yeah,
it
definitely.
is. It exists. Is there anything you could add to that?
To harp on that, I'll look Frank right down in the eyes. I remember maybe we're talking about 6 years ago. struggling a little bit with money and everything, and need another side job. Thankfully, we have guys on this job that may own businesses and everything. There was an opening. He gave a call. He said, "Hey, this guy needs such and such needs some help, with landscaping." I said, "All right, yeah, I'll give it a shot." Gave landscaping a shot. It helped me out financially so much. To this day, I love you, Frank, for that. I don't know if I ever really told you that.
Look at this, man. I love this, man.
I've known Frank for a little under 20 years now and everything, and for him to, just go out, say less, Ian. I got this, got a call and everything.
That's awesome,
Meet
man.
up with him, we're all helping each other. Like Patsy said, one day, somebody needs help with demoing a bathroom or whatever, the kitchen and everything. Or can you help me move from such and such place to Bryant Gardens and everything?
That's it, though.
There's going to be about 10 guys willing to help you and everything. They got the pickup trucks, they got trailers and everything. It doesn't matter,
You pay it forward, man.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about.
The brotherhood
pay it forward.
is
I love it,
amazing
man.
here.
I mean, this is what it's all about,
Yeah.
man. Like, I think, I've learned something this episode for real because, like I said, I see you guys around the city, but I don't really know what goes on in the firehouse, and I think this is giving people a peek into the firehouse. And so, the final question is, it's called the Gems of Public Safety, the podcast, right?
Yep.
And so, for someone who's watching or listening to this who might be thinking about becoming a firefighter one day, what are what's one piece of wisdom you can give them? And the second part of this, because it's a two-part question, is there something that they can do safety-wise to help, right? So like the first part is someone who's aspiring to be a firefighter, and the second part of it is there's someone who lives in this city. Is there something they could do to be safer or to be more aware with like fire prevention and safety?
So funny that you mentioned this. We just went to the White Plains High School. We were talking with the youth there and everything. There was a few females in the back that, they were asking questions and everything. They were like, "Oh, has there ever been a female firefighter?" No. In White Plains, there has not been one female firefighter. So
Let's go.
We'll take the time right now. Ladies, take the job. Take the application. Apply to it. Don't, just because this is a male-dominated world, does not mean you can't become a firefighter.
Absolutely.
There's plenty of firefighters in the county. There's plenty of firefighters in New York City. Officers, commanding officers, chiefs. So don't sell yourself short and everything. And then when it comes to maybe the safety, I think this is something I learned early on. We see it in videos all the time. Close your doors at night and everything. Not just for security reason, but also you'd be very surprised if a fire ever started in your living room and then you have your room to your master bedroom, your kid's room, and it's closed. Fire won't reach, or it has a harder time reaching a closed door rather than an open door.
Because of the air, right?
Yes, correct. And so then you'll see, there's scenes, I think, I remember going into one on Overtime, 11 Lake Street, and actually one of our brothers, he lost his apartment in that fire and everything. And we went inside some of the other apartments that were affected and everything. You go inside, you see the living room is completely blacked out, smoked out, fire was everywhere and everything. But if you go right into this other room that was closed, it looks clear as day, like nothing had gotten touched. You might see a little line of soot, a little bit of smoke and everything there, but it was protecting them. And we try to tell whether it's the youth, adults that come into the firehouse as visitors and everything, we let them know about those type of situations, how to protect themselves. Hey, do that rather than trying to go out into a hallway, go down a stairwell and everything. Board yourself inside a room, close the doors at night and everything. You protect yourself that much more and everything.
Oh, man. Thank you for that, Gem. I just learned something new. I'm going to start closing these doors.
You can go into the firehouse anytime you want. The guys are there 24 hours. You get any questions, you go in there.
I'm going to start popping in, man.
They're happy to talk to you.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
Start
saying?
popping in.
Absolutely.
I mean, could you add to, a Gem or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, what Ian said is spot on. I mean, that's such a subtle detail that goes such a long way in life when it comes to fire and how it spreads. For me, one of my biggest things would be just call. And what I mean by that is too many times people have a small fire, they'll try and put it out themselves. They'll waste precious time. So there's like a saying in the fire department, it's more like command stuff, but I rather see resources than look for resources, right?
I like that
So
one.
I don't want
That's a
to have
gem.
someone not call and it's 5 minutes later and now we're just turning out the gate when we could have been pulling up already at that point.
That's another, man, you guys are on fire today. I'm loving it. Mike, what you got for me, man?
So we're making decisions all the time, like you said, right? There was a fire not too long ago on Lenox Avenue. Gentleman was deep frying something up, and it went up the side of his house.
Yeah.
He didn't want to call it in, and the neighbor called it in. Right? And actually,
Perfect
we just had an officer, like a commanding officer meeting, and they were just kind of giving us tips on stuff. And one of the chiefs who was actually at that fire that day said, when we got the call, we didn't know that he tried to put it out. Right? So when we got there, it already looked like it was out because he started to spray it out with the hose from the back, but it got up into the soffit, into the back of the house, and then it ran the whole roof, right? And that's why construction is vital here, because of the time of day. Now, that day, the person who gave the address was wrong, but it was the middle of the day, 1 o'clock, so you could see the smoke coming from the building.
Wow, okay.
If that was 3 o'clock in the morning, we're looking for the address that we get dispatched to, right? You're not going to see black smoke coming off the roof. So we only could go off the information we're given, right? So if you are living in a house and the fire comes in and you don't want to call us because you think you're going to do something and then it gets worse, it's going to be worse for you and it's going to be worse for us too. So now we're behind the 8 ball. You know, we only could go off what the information we know. There's information you know. There's knowns, there's unknowns, and there's unknown unknowns, right? There's things that we don't know, that the people don't know. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. One night, we had a guy who was working at Station 3 where Patsy worked. I was a fireman there for 8 years before I got promoted. Ian ended up getting moved that night to the firehouse. I forget what the reason was, but he's a night owl. He doesn't sleep. Right?
That's a well-known
that's
thing.
true.
So
That's true.
So now the general public knows that I do not sleep.
So it's like about 12:30, 12 o'clock at night or whatever,
No,
and
maybe
he's
2.
upstairs at the watch desk where the computer is, where the dispatch comes in, and we have the 911 so we could hear it. And the lady came in, there was a fire on South Kensico. So you're going down Lake Street, you make that right
Yes.
there on South Ken, that building right there on the left-hand side, next to the tattoo parlor shop.
Yes.
Right?
Familiar. Yes.
So I was driving the engine. If he wasn't there that night, I would have been probably in the back seat because I was going to potentially get promoted at this point. So I was letting the other guy drive. So because usually what happens is that we like to keep the guys who are there for the full shift driving the full shift.
Gotcha.
So because I started the shift there and I was going to work the 24, I drove. But if he wasn't going to be there that night, the other guy who was working in that house, who still works there, I was giving him wheel time because there was a good chance I was going to get promoted, which I did. So I would have been in the back seat, stretching the hose up the staircase. But that night I wasn't because he was there.
Okay.
So we get dispatched for a structure fire. It sounded like the lady was saying, the police officer or the person that took the call thought she was saying fight, and she was saying fire. So we come down Lake Street. I'm driving, and as I'm coming down, we pass the Dunkin' Donuts, the gas station right there, Michael's Pizzeria, and I see cars reversing. So I'm like, okay, well, something's going on. Why are these cars reversing? And we make the turn, and it was as bright as walking into Yankee Stadium. And the fire was blowtorching out of the top floor windows, and you could literally, as we drove past it, now we're on the ground, it's about 40 feet up, and I could feel the radiant heat. Right? So him, me, and another officer who's still on the job, he pulls out, knocks the fire down, and now this guy humps 300 feet of hose up the staircase with him and another officer, so mostly by himself.
Together.
Together.
That's the athlete.
Together, but I'm saying is he
we're a
humped up,
team.
and the hose has water in it, mind you, right?
So this thing ain't light, people.
Correct. So each 50-foot length of hose with water in it is about 100 pounds. Okay, there was 300 feet of hose. All right, and they dragged it up and put the fire out. And prior to that, him working with us, you know, he was newer on the job. I don't remember how much time, maybe like 5 years. And he was kind of looking for like acceptance. And I still have the text message from the day I sent it to him, because there's a video his friend sent. He sent me the video. His friend was at the gas station that night and sent us the video.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it
Yeah,
was,
just
happened to be there.
It's documented.
At the
man.
BP, and I sent him
He's got real
after.
proof.
A lot of guys are like, what?
And that night, I sent him after. I said, "Listen, man, you earn my respect because you did a hell of a job, right?" And we saved that building, right? So there's, you know, what I tell guys, if you want to take this job, like, you got to be able to put other people before you, right? That's first and
That's a
foremost.
gem right there.
Right? You got to be able to and you got to want to be able to help people. And no matter what, like, if you go in, if we come in together, we go out together.
We go out together.
Right? So and like I said, there was a moment for me when I probably had 10 years on, 12 years, and I had my daughter. We were in a house fire, and it was there was no reason that we really needed to be in there. The lady was a hoarder, but you do your job. Now looking back, at one point, I remember looking, I'm like, we're not making any headway here. Like, I don't want to die in this house. And it wasn't for nothing. Like, you go in there and there's people trapped, I'm all in, 100% every day of the week. There was no one in the house. The house was empty. It was a hoarding condition. The house, and to risk other guys' lives, including mine, and for what? What are we saving? Right? You risk a lot. You risk a lot. You risk a lot to save a lot. Like and so like that's what I tell guys. Like, if you want to come in here, it is the best job in the world. You can make anything you want at it. You want to go through the ranks. The opportunities there. I have my own business on the side. I built a business. I'm retiring. I have a successful business on the side. I'm doing that. So whatever you want, you have 20 years career to set it up. So when you leave, you collect your pension, because I've seen too many guys stay to the end. Or deputy chief that didn't even get a chance, that had 30-something years, who was just going to retire. He had COVID and passed away. He was our deputy, Deputy Chief Sioka, right? So you got to take the time, and you got to enjoy yourself too. But you got to put the work in, get there, and have a plan, right?
Absolutely, man. Damn, this was such a great episode. I love the way that you ended that, because I feel like it gave a lot of insight, and it wrapped up this episode with a nice bow. So thank you guys for taking time out of your schedules to sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
I learned a lot during this episode, man. I appreciate what you guys do, because I couldn't do what you guys do.
Same with you.
So thank you for what you guys do. And, this is Jason Lacayo signing off for the Gems of Public Safety podcast. Once again, I'd like to thank Commissioner Wade Hardy for putting this together and creating this brainchild, because I do believe that this is something that is going to give people a lot more insight to what first responders do on a daily basis, man. So I thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.